So good evening, and we're going to get right into it. We've got a live session today. We've got Vidhie Mukerjea with us, and she's talking about her memoir, Devil's Daughter. And yes, we're going to understand why that name, because I think a lot of connotations. But I want to, before I ask her, I want all of you to start thinking, why do you think she named the novel Devil's Daughter? And we'll see how close we are to the actual reason. As we all know, on her 18th birthday, Vidhie watched as her mother got arrested for the murder of her daughter. And Vidhie was portrayed as the devil's daughter by media and by society. Soon that became her reality. She was 18 years old. And the question is, how does an 18-year-old and where does an 18-year-old go from there? In this session, we're going to talk to Vidhie about her journey towards overcoming the blame and the shame that was cast upon her, and how she was able to cultivate a profound appreciation for the beauty this world has to offer in the face of ugliness that no one should really ever know. It is a journey of accepting yourself and a journey of being able to face anything. So with that, Vidhie, a very, very warm welcome to Sipping Thoughts. We're very excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Vidhie, we're going to jump right in. Your memoir, or I would say your, as you even say, your journey to hell and not quite back yet, began in 2015 on the eve of your 18th birthday, and it still continues. You've said in your foreword that you should not merely accept but embrace your reality. And what have you that you have learned to welcome yours with open arms? Please do delve into this, because when we have heard the story, we've seen it in media, we have been shocked. So how were you able to accept the reality?
I think accepting it's a very long process, and embracing your reality, it comes much later. So for me, I think it literally took about 6 years till today. I don't think I've still managed to 100% accept what's going on. There are aspects that I'm still very closed off to. So it's quite a tough process to even begin to comprehend what's going on, and that's what happened with me. So when all of this kind of broke out, I instantly shut off. I kind of put the pause button, and I had these imaginary walls around me, and I just pretended like nothing was going on. So that happened. That was like my whole escapism phase, where I was just kind of deflecting on anything around me. And I really, like, when I was abroad, I pretended like none of this was going on back home. And that whole phase kind of lasted for 2 years. And then it went down. It just kept going downhill, because I really thought I was an anomaly, that I was, somehow I've just escaped these feelings and I never need to kind of feel them. But then it hit hard, it hit really badly. And it really took for me to kind of hit rock bottom, for me to realize that this is actually happening. 2-3 years down the line is when I started to realize this is happening. And only last year, probably when I started penning down my memoir, did I start accepting and in fact getting embraced by it. I think accepting comes first, and then the embracing factor comes second. And it kind of transitioned very beautifully for me when I was writing this.
No, and your book is actually very beautifully written. And as I said to you, it's actually written very mature. When I started reading it, it was actually so full and it was intense, but the maturity of your writing definitely shone through. I'm going to ask her now, what did she mean by the devil's daughter? So I'd like to get your intake and want to understand from you. So Muddat is saying it meant brave young lady, brave heart. I would love to hear what she has to say about her journey. But on the day your mother was arrested, you began to be seen as the child of the devil herself by so many people. So let's talk about that, the title of your book, and why and who do you mean by the devil's daughter?
So this title came up in conversation with my partner, and this is way before I even started writing my book. This is, I think, 8 or 9 months before I started writing. I always knew that, if there's a book, what could it be called? And I think this name popped up between both of us. And I was instantly kind of hooked to it, because my first thought did not go to any specific person. It's intangible. There's no physical kind of aspect. There's no person that I'm attaching this name to, and it's quite beautiful, because most people would connect it either to my mother or to someone, or maybe even myself, And the way I saw it, I saw it as a metaphor. That's why it stuck to me, because the first thing I thought of was the fact that this is a metaphor. This is literally how I feel I was looked at by everyone. You know, the devil to me were so many things. It was the law, it was the media, it was my own kind of directionless self, you know, and that's that stuck with me. And I think Devil's Daughter, it's quite open to interpretation. Like the book in itself is quite read between the lines. That's how I really hope to write it. And the title just fit, you know, it fit like a puzzle, because it's also a read between the lines title. And to really understand the full meaning of that title, one has to read the book fully, you know.
So well said. You're so true. And you have to read it till the end. Now, the book, you dedicated it to your mother. Why dedicated the book to her?
So, because the last 5 or 6 years, we've really not known much of each other, you know, and as much as I tried to kind of resent people and her in the process of all of this, it kept coming down to one thing, that she's my mother. You know, as much hate that I had for these things, I had a lot of love for her as well. You know, it's a very complicated kind of relationship that we're still trying to navigate. And I spent a lot of time the past 2, 3 years trying to understand her and her actions. So I only thought it was fair that she kind of knows who I am, you know, because she probably still sees me as the 18-year-old she left behind. And it's like a night and day change, you know, and I really wanted to dedicate this to her, to kind of, you know, speak to her through my book.
Very nice, very nice. And do you feel that she has read your book? And what were her thoughts on your book?
So, I mean, I think she's just received the book very recently. So I think she's in the process of probably reading it. In my next call with her, I'll find out more. But I did kind of give her disclaimers previous to, you know, my launch. I did tell her that I was writing a book, and then, you know, this is likely to be published. And I told her, I was very honest with her about what the context of the book was and what was in it, you know. And I even told her the name, and she was super understanding. She was incredibly kind of, I was quite scared to tell her, because I didn't know what her reaction was going to be, but it was so endearing, because I think she almost started crying, and she told me, I'm so proud of you. You know, I knew you were going to always do something like this. So it really kind of gave me that last push to get it released.
No, and always when I was reading your book, she constantly said, please write to me, please write to me. I almost felt that you were writing this long letter to her also.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's so beautifully said, because the more I think about it, you know, the reason I have dedicated this to her is because it's directly for her, you know, for her to kind of get to know these last 6 years.
Well, I at least felt that. So I wanted to convey that, because I felt it was a letter to her. Now, in August 2021, and we're coming right to the reality, the case is still not over. The CBI has just said that they're done with the investigation. So what are you expecting, and what will happen now? Because I think it has been, again, all over the news.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, because the thing is, I have faith in the legal system. You know, at the start, I didn't really have much faith, and I just hated everything around me and everyone around me, and I really didn't believe in, you know, justice being served. But I believe in the law, and I believe the proceedings will go a certain way. I can't tell what will happen next, because, you know, it's just one of those things, like, prepare for the worst and hope for the best and prepare for the worst.
In the book, you've also said that you tried to put yourself in your mother's shoes. Did that help? Did that help you make sense of what happened and why?
Definitely. I mean, that's when I first understood the true meaning of empathy. And I had no idea what empathy even was. I kept using it in sentences, but I had no idea what I was using and what I meant by it. But I think the first, and it happened very organically, you know, it was quite subconsciously drifting through my mind. And I just suddenly, there was a phase where I was kind of thinking about my mom's past, you know, and what led her to do certain things, to become what she was. Like, you know, it wasn't just the darker stuff. It was literally like she came from a village and worked to become a CEO of a company, you know, that, and that's like warrior, that's literally a warrior like thing. And I really wanted to understand that and find the complexities between that. How did all of this happen? So once I kind of went into that, I started understanding what empathy was, and it really kind of showed me a different light.
Tell us a little bit more, because I think we would like to understand that word, especially empathy, because a lot of us do use it. And that word is used like what you said. I think a lot of us don't even understand what the word means, but we do use it. How would you explain what is empathy now?
So empathy for me is at least like when you really put yourself in someone else's shoes, and it's nearly impossible. You can't do that. We can only think that's what it feels like. I will never know what it's like to sit in a train station and beg or something. I would have to be in that position for a day to understand. I wouldn't even understand it fully. So it began help once I understood my mom. It began help understanding me. And through empathy, I kind of learned what judgment was, and just the whole concept of judging people and why I was judged, and the fact that I made peace with the fact that people were judging me, because I understood that it's their own conjecture. They are entitled to what they feel, and through their own journey, they'll understand what empathy is through their own kind of ways. So
the judgment also became a lot because of the media. What we would call the real shocks and the role that they played, the uncomfortable questions you were asked. And also you speak a lot about it, the question of privacy. And even, you were 18, but nobody was sparing you.
Yeah, and I think with the media, it was just, it came as a shock to me because I didn't expect it. I didn't expect that I was going to be sort of in the middle of all of this whilst I was 17. I mean, it was quite naive for me to think that. I understand that now, but I had no idea that I'd be attacked like that, because a lot of the information that was coming out was so inaccurate. They were using like prehistoric pictures to kind of twist words. They were they were headlining things like what I eat for breakfast in a courtroom. And it really drove me out of the country. That's when I decided I don't want to be anywhere near any of this. And it really kind of forced me to hop on a flight and move to London literally the day after. And even when I went to London, they would like call me from different numbers and ask me all these kind of insensitive questions. So it really kind of broke my heart during that point, because it wasn't just me, it was everyone in my family, it was my friends, it was my neighbors. It was just a chain reaction essentially.
And like what you've been saying, for the past 5 years, others have been painting you with the same brush as your mother and condemning you as a pitiful, damaged byproduct of circumstance. And you've been made to feel this too many times by well-wishers. Do you still think it's accurate? That is how people see you?
I can't really answer that because I don't know or take part in what people think of me anymore, apart from obviously like my closer circle. I can't answer that because I don't know, but I would hope to think that with this book coming out, their views have changed.
Anything you would like to say to them, the ones that have been, because I know in your book, there is a part where you specifically address the media.
It's okay. I mean, like, to address them, I'd just say like, yeah, I understand, if I was like an outsider watching a case like this, I would also feel the urge to kind of sit and judge people. I have felt the urge long time ago, 5 years ago. I have been the one on the other side judging people too, so I know what it's like. And I have no hard feelings. It's completely fine.
Now, I want to ask you this, because this is a question that a lot of people probably haven't seen about you. The epicenter of most kids' lives, and even for you, were your parents. And in the space of 6 months, right, within very, very short time, both of your parents were taken away, and you had really no one to support you. What happened to you? Because when you have the two people that actually you count on the most in the world are no longer there. And when I say no longer, they were physically also no longer there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There were people that supported me. I just didn't take it. I was kind of very stubborn, and I was a kid that thought I knew everything. So there were a lot of people that did support me, but at that point I didn't understand that. So I made myself feel like I was alone, that I was kind of, everyone was against me. And during that point, I think it was, of course, it was really tough. It was, I always wanted to be around people so I wouldn't have to be alone with my thoughts, because I was just constantly self-deprecating and it was too much information to handle. It didn't stop. Like for like 6 months, there was just headline after headline after headline. And I had to shut off, because I think I would go completely crazy if I didn't. So in a way, I'm kind of glad that those 2 years, it took 2 years to escape, and then things slowly started to die down. Still not, but then I had like my own time to process any of it.
So even writing this book must have required you to visit a lot of the memories that you tried to block or escape. How did you confront them, and why was it important for you to write this book?
So yeah, when I wrote this book, I was fairly older and I was already on a better path from a year before that, and I was able to kind of handle my emotions a little better, but I was still getting like panic attacks and stuff. So I knew writing this book would take a lot out of me. I just didn't know how much. And it was in the pandemic, and we were stuck in Hong Kong, and I knew I came out of Barcelona, I graduated, I had no idea what I was doing. I just decided, okay, I'm going to get on my laptop and see what happens. And within 2 months, I finished my first manuscript. Like I was in a trance. If someone asked me, what did you do those 2 months? I wouldn't remember, because I was literally in a trance, just writing. And after I came out of it was quite tough. I was in a very confused headspace that I didn't understand what was going on. And that's when I figured out what shadow work was.
Please talk a little bit more about shadow work, because that is one of my questions, because a lot of us don't know about shadow work.
Sure. So shadow work essentially is a psychotherapy. It's a psychotherapy that you do with yourself. And it's where you are kind of accessing and learning how to understand the darkest parts of yourself. Because these are aspects like shame, regret, socially, things that you feel like you're socially, unacceptable. And you see splits of them when you kind of get angry or you're having an argument. You see your shadow self in those moments, but we don't understand them. We keep kind of shutting them out. So I understand it's basically a form where you're just questioning yourself on the darkest and deepest parts, such as you take topics like your jealousy, insecurities, your parents, your friends, your sexuality, and you really delve into these deep, intricate kind of questions and answer them to yourself. Like I'll give you an example. Let's take jealousy, okay? There are questions you ask yourself, like, okay, there's this person. Am I jealous of this person? Your instant reaction is going to say no, because the thought at the front of your head is instantly telling you to say no. And there's like an uneasy feeling that kind of there may be a yes. So that's why you jump to say no, So essentially what shadow work does is you're kind of forcing your thought at the back that I said no to come in the front and accept it. Like, yes, okay, I am jealous of this person, but why? Understand why, and then break it down further. And then you find yourself to kind of understand a whole new realm of, decisions that you wouldn't have made before and just thoughts you wouldn't have had. So I did that for like 2.5 months, 3 months with every single aspect of my life. And I was just dissecting my book and literally revisiting days that I'd forgotten. I forced myself to forget that happened. I revisited those days and understood them. And it was terrible. Like I was in the worst headspace physically. And because I was literally crying for like 4 or 5 days straight, and I just didn't understand what was happening. But the day I came out of it, like everything changed. I've not had a panic attack since then, because every time I feel it coming, I somehow I am able to kind of talk myself out of it. It's literally making friends with your darker self. It's making friends with your anxiety. It's talking to yourself.
Now let's talk a little bit, because I think one of the anxiety, the relationship with your mother, let's delve into that, because yours was a difficult one and a tense one, even before all of this happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like any parent-child relationships, especially there's a stigma, right, about mothers and daughters kind of, there's a complex, and then with fathers and sons. So I think that was the case with us. At times we were best friends, and at times we just didn't understand each other. And it was quite a stressful environment growing up, as I think my mom had envisioned me to be this kind of A-star student, and kind of do the whole, checklist, go to an Ivy League, get a corporate job. And that was like the vision. But inherently, I knew as a kid that that wasn't me. I was always very creatively inclined. I didn't know what for, but I knew I was just very, I was very interested in arts, any kind of arts, whether it's like cooking, whether it's drawing, music, whatever it is. I always wanted to kind of understand that better. And during the years of my schooling, I think because of how tough she was on me with my grades and stuff, I adapted a very rebellious attitude. So if she would say something is black, I would say something is white, and I would basically do the opposite. So it wasn't just her, it wasn't her kind of making it a very unbearable environment. It was also me, and I think things just went downhill from there. And yeah, just before she got arrested, actually, my mom and I were getting pretty close. And that was when I was from the ages of 17 to 18. And that year, things were running really smoothly. I mean, all three of us, we were finally kind of all getting along together. Me and my dad always got along, but yeah, then my 18th birthday, that's when everything happened.
Now, I think another one that a lot of people is your relationship with your sister, Sheena Bora. In the book, you had an inkling for a long time that she was your sister and you were quite close to her. But what made you push down that feeling, and why didn't you delve into it more, your grandfather, your parents, your family tree, and grow more curious? Because that was very deep in you that, yes, she could be my sister.
I mean, I was really young, so I didn't know. I can't just say that I knew she was my sister, because I was very young when that happened. So if and I was quite like, kids are quite, they're influenced very easily. Like someone's telling me this is how it is, and the other one's telling me that's how it is. Like I'll somehow believe both of them. So I definitely did have a very sisterly connection with her, is what I realize now. I didn't realize it at the time, because for me, I was just a kid who was happy to kind of be around people all the time. I thought of anyone, even my cousins, I think of them as my like brother and sister. I'll never call them my cousins, I'll say they're my brother. And that's how it was with Sheena. And it's a topic that I haven't really confronted yet.
Sorry, I'm getting some background noise, so apologies for that. It's a very difficult topic because a lot of questions do come up you that when Sheena suddenly disappeared and you were no longer in touch, why did it not raise more alarm bells in you? Because you were in regular touch with her. You were in constant touch with her, even when you were told not to be in touch with her.
I mean, we weren't in constant touch. It was like times were different back then, right? Today you can just send a WhatsApp and you can call someone. It's as easy as that. Back then, I didn't have a phone, so I was only communicating through emails, and so was she. So even it wasn't like as often as I think people think it was. It was literally maybe like once every couple of months or once every month or something. And during that phase, things were quite turbulent in the family as well. So we weren't in conversation every day, And again, I was really young to kind of remember, but this is something we still all wonder. This is something we still are all in the family trying to figure out, that how could we not ask more questions, It's not, and it's not just one person that this happened to. It's literally like 20 people around in the family. Every single person did not ask any questions. We're just still trying to figure out why and how.
So one last question about this. When you finally knew that, yes, Sheena was your sister, what went on in your mind at that point in time?
Again, like this is just one of those questions. This is one of those topics I haven't really confronted properly. Like it'll probably take me some time to actually articulate this answer properly. But at the top of my head, I think somewhere, like you said, I always knew, it didn't come as a big shock to me. And I was, it was quite sad, but I was like pleasantly happy about it.
So escapism, I mean, you talk a lot about that as a coping mechanism. And that is something that you used quite extensively to deal with. How were you able to finally recognize that you're escaping and say, no, need to do something more productive to start to get your life back on track?
I knew it straight away. I mean, I knew I was escaping. I just didn't know. I just thought that because I'm escaping it'll pass and I'll just somehow find my passion. I didn't know that I was going to hit hard. That's where I actually became very naive, because I thought that escapism was working for me somehow. That's why I call myself, an anomaly back then. And it didn't. I was so wrong. I was so wrong, because I kept pushing it down. And then finally it kind of just all blew up in my face, and instantly when that happened, I was just like, oh man, like now it's going to start. And I knew it was just going to go downhill from there. So yeah, I mean, I knew I was escaping for the first 2 years. I knew I was distracting myself. Anything and everything I could to distract myself, I would,
Something that actually I did not know. I mean, we typically assume you were a typical rich kid, a kid of lots of privilege. Even when you were studying in London, money would never have been an issue. Someone that had everything. But was this the case? Because it sounded that there was also some struggle there in terms of even understanding how to make financially.
Yeah, I mean, see, before this whole situation happened, I think it's very important for me to acknowledge, like, yes, I was in a privileged family. I'm incredibly grateful for that. I was able to go to the schools. I was able to kind of, have help in the house. And that I truly believe is a privileged background. And I'm incredibly grateful for that today. I didn't understand it back then at all. And after that, what happens, I mean, with this great privilege, like you saw what happened, it kind of all went downhill. And there was a point where I still had help. It's not like I didn't, I was completely on my own. There was financial help, of course. It's more my own kind of feeling that I wanted to do something on my own. I didn't want to keep taking money from my parents. I didn't want to keep asking people for money or anything. It's my own relationship with my money that I needed to understand. And to understand that, I needed to have a job. I needed to, understand what it's like to kind of be broke in my own kind of surrounding. What is it like to, just struggle? I needed to struggle. I forced myself to struggle, essentially, so I can comprehend my relationship with money, because again, that's a complicated one for everyone, I think. And one thing I really learned is that, money is something that it comes and goes, and it's we have a very, very negative relationship with money. And yeah, it was a while for me to understand that.
I'm going to take some questions from the audience now. Dr. Vandana, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Vidhie. First of all, congratulations on putting down your thoughts so beautifully, and I've yet to read the book, but let me tell you, it really takes courage to go through all this. I'm sure this question you would have asked 100 times, why me? Why I'm the center of this? I'm the epicenter of all this, what is happening around. You were middle of in a situation which was unavoidable. But I'm sure, you would have found some support in someone, who would take you through these rough times. Because such a tender age, as you are saying, going from 17 to 18, surely there would have been some strength somewhere, you would have found that, okay, this is my support and I need to move on. So who were the people who actually took you through this?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hi, Dr. Vandana.
Hi, hello.
Your question and your lovely comments. Now, to answer your question, there were a lot of people, of course, as I mentioned, like I got a lot of help from people when I didn't even want it. I didn't even know that I was getting help. So there were people always rooting for me, and they're very near and dear to me today. I think I had my aunt, even though my dad was sitting in jail, like he's someone that was constantly at the back of my head, protecting me, and I felt his protection around me, giving me the ability to kind of fight on. But ultimately, I really would have to answer this and say that it was myself I picked myself up. It was me at the end of the day who would wake up and look at myself in the mirror and, ask, am I going to fall or am I going to rise? And it took a lot of falling. I knew I had to fall to rise. So yeah, ultimately it was me who picked myself up, but so much gratitude to all the people that were around me.
So how is this 6 years now, from 2015 to 2021? Do you feel relieved after putting down your thoughts in the book?
Absolutely.
Do you feel that something off my chest?
100%. I think, it was a, people ask me, was this closure for you? It wasn't closure.
Right.
Relief. Like, it's still not closed. It was just a chapter that's ironically a chapter that's, finished of my life. And now I feel great. I really, really kind of look forward to every single day, even the bad ones, because now I've got this attitude where anything bad that happens, any negative thoughts, I know I'm going to learn from them, and I know I'm going to, come out of it better. So I welcome the good, bad, ugly.
Thank you. Thank you for being so honest, and all the best to you, dear. God bless you.
So much.
Vidhie, go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations, Vidhie, for overcoming your grief. My question is, what is your learning from this, tragic experience? And if it's of any help in empathizing with your parents, I heard a politician was behind it, because 3 years after the incident, suddenly it came up, and how suspiciously it came up has been forgotten, and the tragedy, the focus has been on that. But that aside, what is your learning from this personal tragic experience? Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for your question. I've had a few learnings, and I think, but the most important learning that I've had is to just have faith in myself and trust my intuition and really work with my mind, understand myself to the full extent, which will help me kind of live on a day-to-day basis, communicate with people. Second is empathy. I think empathy is something we all need to practice and really understand what this word means, because it's so overlooked. A lot of people confuse empathy and sympathy. It's very easy to kind of get muddled between those two, And the last and final lesson that I would love to say is just embracing your weirdness and uniqueness. Like, we're so shamed. We're so shamed to kind of like show how weird we are. Like, all of us are weird in our own way. We're all quirky. So I really think that we ought to kind of embrace that part of us.
Thank you. Reena is asking, do you believe your parents had better options? Could you grasp the reasons why they did not take the high road?
Sorry, I didn't understand that question.
Yeah, that they had better options. I'm also just reading the question.
Yeah.
It's okay. Indrani, I'm asking you to unmute, or otherwise I will take your question. Indrani is asking, has your relationship with your dad matured? Are you closer to him?
I can ask.
Oh, go ahead,
okay, that
Indrani.
one. I was thinking that I'll ask her the last question that I said. In fact, I'm a major voracious consumer of the Human Library of US, India, and UK. If you are still in the UK, why don't you become a book in the Human Library of UK? It will be a very cathartic experience for you, and you would be a great reader, a great book. I don't know if you're aware of the Human Library.
No, I've not heard of it.
So do look it up, and you can be a very good book, and it will be a very good cathartic experiences where humans are books. They are read by people from all over the country. I just participated in Human Library of New York 1 week back, and it was, I read about a book who was a trans person, from a female to a male, and there was another book who was like a homeless person. There are other kinds of books, all kinds of books. So do look it up. It will really be very cathartic for you. And wonderful. You've really done great. Khub bhalo.
Thank you.
Khubi bhalo koreche. Thank you.
Well, thank you. If anybody else has any questions, please do let me know. Otherwise, I think the question that I would want to ask is, And I think Mudit already pointed out it. You talked about what did you learn, because your book is also a self-help book. And I think, as Indrani very much put it, that you are like a human library. And we are very fortunate today that all of us are getting access to the human library. Please do share, what were those core learnings you had, how to deal with difficult times?
Definitely. How to deal with difficult times, this is one thing that I don't know if people would agree with me, because it's very hard to talk to people about your problems. Like a lot of people kept telling me, oh, go talk to someone, go see a therapist, which by the way, I think a therapist is a incredible thing that people should be, they should have a third opinion, someone who doesn't know you, and you're just, because a therapist helps you organize your thoughts. You don't have to have some problem to go talk to a therapist. So that's something I really enforce. Second, like, it's quite hard to talk to people. I know I'm contradicting my point, but it wasn't easy for me to just open up to anyone, even my best friend. It was a long journey, and to get better is also a really, really long one. Like, I'm not fully cured by any means. I don't think I will be for a long time. And I think it's so important to have faith in yourself and just keep having confidence that you can get through it. Just know that, okay, these are terrible things that are happening to me. I'm in a really terrible headspace, but I am going to come out of it. And when I do, I'm going to learn a lot out of it. So that kind of attitude really helped me,
No, and I really like, if I'd like to read from your foreword, you may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lines. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I will rise. It was a beautiful way that you had opened your book. And
actually,
I think it's something.
That was my aunt.
Aunt, yes.
Yes, she wrote that.
And it definitely embodies, I think, everything that you are, you are, and you've gone through something, I think, that, none of us can even fathom, and still you've been able to rise. So we wish you the best of luck. Any closing thoughts as we end for today?
No, I would just like to say thank you so much for having me on this talk. It was lovely. Thank you so much for all the questions that I got. I'm really kind of, I feel this platform that I'm having with my book right now, I'd really kind of like to speak about mental health. And, one thing I've realized, we as humans, we're very closed up. We don't like talking about the real things. So in a way, I'd really like to, because the responses I've been getting from my book, people are really opening up to me. It's so touching. And I feel so lucky to be having this platform, and I would really like to kind of use it for good.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being with us today, and stay blessed.
Thank you so much, everyone.